We already knew they were prolific abusers, but today we learned just how much of the depravity of Jimmy Savile and Stuart Hall took place on BBC premises. For decades it went unchecked within the walls of the nation's broadcaster. He was known as King Jimmy by BBC staff. From the late 50s to the middle of the last decade, Jimmy Savile sexually assaulted 57 females and 15 boys. One victim of rape was 10. One child he assaulted was aged 8. It's a knockout star, Stuart Hall, has just served half a 5-year jail term for historical assaults. Now an impartial report has shown, while he was working for the corporation, he abused 21 females. The youngest was aged 10.
Both of these men used their fame and positions as BBC celebrities to abuse the vulnerable. They must be condemned for their monstrous behaviour. But the culture of the BBC certainly enabled both Savile and Stuart Hall to go undetected for decades.
Dame Janet's report contains more than 370,000 words and heard from 117 witnesses. In it she says there is no evidence any senior BBC management knew of Savile's behaviour. But some junior and middle-ranking staff had been aware of Savile's inappropriate sexual misconduct. A culture of fear existed then and exists now that made BBC staff reluctant to speak to managers about complaints.
Celebrities were treated with kid gloves and were virtually untouchable. One witness told me that the talent were more valuable to the BBC than their own values.
And there was, if I may, one account that particularly stuck in my mind, one that hit me personally. One of the survivors was told, "Keep your mouth shut, he's a VIP." This hit me because it made it so very clear that we, the BBC, did that.
Aged 8, Leisha Brooks was sexually assaulted at BBC TV Centre by Jimmy Savile and says other men took part. We were with her as she heard today's findings. Leisha gave evidence to the review and is disappointed that senior BBC managers have been exonerated in it.
To the senior executives at the BBC, this report does nothing. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help us victims. You admit it happened, but you've known for a long time. They must have known. There was too much going on. I was taken to BBC personally for 2 years by an employee of the BBC that is named in the report. He has since died as a convicted paedophile. He passed me around several people over a 2-year period. How could people have not known why an 8-year-old girl was passed around the BBC and used and abused and nobody knew? It's impossible.
The BBC's Director General, Lord Hall, told 5 News the corporation has changed and is still changing. Dame Janet said that an atmosphere of fear still exists today in the BBC. She said about staff coming forward for this review, she said there is a culture of not complaining. That's frightening, is it not?
This is what we have to deal with. Since I came back to the BBC nearly 3 years ago, I've brought in new policies, new procedures, encourage people to come forward with things that they, bullying, harassment, sexual abuse, or whatever, they need to come forward. I think what Dame Janet is saying is that that's fine, but actually we've now got to take that on to the next stage.
They abused their power and their viewers and listeners, but BBC staff missed the opportunities and enabled them to continue for years.